The breaking point. The Vidian Council chamber stood silent as Ambassador Elena Reyes waited for their decision. Massive view screens displayed the devastation of New Horizon colony, buildings reduced to ash, terraforming equipment twisted into unrecognizable shapes. Millions dead in a single coordinated strike by the Ketvaran Empire. Humanity had only been part of the galactic community for 23 years, still considered children among the ancient civilizations that govern known space. The Council has reviewed your petition for intervention, announced Archon Tolmec, his crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. Your request is denied. The Ketvaran incursion into your territories is deemed a localized conflict outside Council jurisdiction. Elena's hands gripped the podium until her knuckles whitened. Localized conflict. They destroyed 3 colonies. 12 million people. Regrettable losses, stated Councillor Zivnar, her tentacles rippling in what Elena had learned was their equivalent of a dismissive gesture. However, humanity's expansion into that sector was aggressive. The Ketvaran have claimed territorial infringement. We settled unclaimed worlds. Elena's voice echoed through the chamber. We followed every regulation, filed every permit your bureaucracy demanded. The 7 council members exchanged glances through their various sensory organs. They had made their decision before she even arrived. The council acknowledges humanity's compliance with settlement protocols. Archon Tolmec continued. However, the Ketvaran hold ancestral claims predating your species' discovery of fire. Their empire has stood for 30,000 years. Humanity must resolve this conflict through direct negotiation. Negotiation. Elena felt her diplomatic training crumbling. They haven't responded to a single communication. They're preparing to strike again. We've detected their fleets mobilizing near Proxima Centauri. Then prepare your defenses, replied Councillor Drex, his scaled face impassive. Every species must prove their worthiness to exist in this galaxy. Humanity has been coddled since your discovery. Perhaps this will be educational. Elena's mind raced through the implications. The Council wasn't just refusing to help. They were sanctioning humanity's potential extinction, a test to see if they deserved to survive. We understand, she said finally, her voice deadly calm. Thank you for your wisdom. As she turned to leave, Councillor Zivanar's translator conveyed one final message. Ambassador, do remember that whatever actions humanity takes in this matter will be judged by this council. The galactic order must be preserved. A thinly veiled threat. Fight back too effectively, and the council itself might intervene against humanity. General Marcus Chen watched the encrypted transmission from Earth's unified command with growing anger. The Vidian Council had abandoned them. Worse, they'd practically given the Ketvaran permission to continue their attacks. Options. He asked his assembled staff aboard the orbital station Vigilance. Colonel Amara Okafor, his tactical officer, stepped forward. Sir, conservative estimates give us 3 weeks before the Ketvaran fleet reaches Proxima Centauri. Their technology outclasses ours by several generations. Conventional engagement would be catastrophic, and unconventional engagement. Chen pushed. A thin smile crossed Okafor's face. That's where it gets interesting. Project Icarus. She activated a holographic display showing schematics for a ship unlike any in Earth's fleet. Smaller, faster, with unusual configurations. The Ketvaran, like most advanced species, rely on gravitic deflection shields and quantum-locked armor. Their technology is elegant, refined over millennia. Okafor highlighted sections of the schematic, but they haven't faced humanity's particular brand of problem-solving. Chen studied the designs. Explain. We can't match their technology, so we're not trying to. Project Icarus vessels use electromagnetic rail systems to accelerate obsolete nuclear warheads to near-relativistic speeds. No guidance systems, no advanced electronics, just mass and velocity. Kinetic bombardment, Chen breathed, like throwing rocks. Very fast rocks, Okafor nodded. Their shields are designed to deflect energy weapons, not physical impact. And we've developed stealth technology that, while primitive by their standards, they might not be looking for. We can deploy thousands of these from our existing ships. They won't expect it. Chen considered the implications. The Council won't approve. They don't need to, said Admiral Catry, joining the conversation. They told us to handle it ourselves. We're simply using the tools available to us. It's a desperation play, Chen admitted. But it might work. What else? Dr. Eliza Wong, head of R&D, stepped forward. We've been reverse engineering Vidian communication technology. Their quantum entanglement networks are impressive, but they follow predictable encryption patterns. We believe we can infiltrate the Ketveran tactical networks. You can hack their ships? Chen asked incredulously. Not control them, Wong clarified. But we might be able to introduce confusion, false data, make their ships fire on each other, or shut down critical systems temporarily. Chen nodded slowly. Keep working on it. What about our conventional forces? We've repurposed mining vessels as carriers, said Admiral Catry. Not elegant, but they can deploy fighters. And we've stripped every colony of defense systems to create a perimeter around our core worlds. We're outgunned, Chen summarized. But not outthought. There's one more thing, Okafor added hesitantly. The Nephilim. The room fell silent. The Nephilim were a mysterious species that had been encountered only once before, in the farthest reaches of explored space. The encounter had been brief, violent, and strange. The Nephilim had withdrawn as quickly as they had appeared, and the Council had forbidden further contact. What about them? Chen asked cautiously. They're not part of the Council, Okafor pointed out. And they seem to have technology that rivals or exceeds the Ketveran. If we could reach them, the Council would see that as provocative, Admiral Catry warned. The Council has made their position clear, Chen replied grimly. Prepare a diplomatic mission to the Nephilim border. The worst they can do is refuse. As the meeting dispersed, Chen turned to the viewport, watching Earth rotate serenely below. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and their own self-destructive tendencies. They would survive this too, whatever the cost. The first engagement came sooner than expected. A Ketveran advance force jumped into the Alpha Centauri system, targeting the mining operations and research stations there. But humanity was waiting. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Captain Sofia Mendoza watched the enemy vessels materialize. 8 Ketveran warships, sleek and predatory, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent metal unknown to human science. All vessels, execute Operation Thunderbolt, she ordered calmly. From hidden positions throughout the system's asteroid belt, 26 modified mining ships activated their engines, not approaching the enemy, but accelerating away at maximum thrust. They're scanning us, reported Lieutenant Park. Their weapons are charging. Hold steady, Mendoza commanded. Wait for it. The mining ships continued accelerating, seemingly in retreat. The Ketveran warships, detecting the human vessels, adjusted course to pursue. Now, Mendoza said quietly. The mining ships released their payloads, thousands of small, simple devices tumbling behind them. To the Ketveran sensors, they would register as debris, mining waste, jettisoned in panic. The Ketveran ships plowed straight into the field of devices. Each one, when struck by the energy of the alien shields, detonated into a cloud of specialized particles, the product of frantic human innovation. The particles adhered to the ship's hulls, interfering with their shield harmonics. Phase 2, Mendoza ordered. From hiding places among the system's outer planets, Earth's actual warships emerged. They were outclassed in every way, except surprise. Their weapons, while primitive by Ketveran standards, found their targets through weakened shields. The space around Alpha Centauri lit up with weapons fire. 3 Ketveran ships were disabled in the first volley, their systems struggling against both the particle contamination and human electronic warfare. Icarus missiles launching, announced Lieutenant Park. From the human ships came smaller vessels, little more than engines attached to dense metal projectiles. They accelerated to terrifying speeds, their trajectories calculated to impact the Ketveran ships at their most vulnerable points. The Ketveran, finally realizing the danger, attempted evasive maneuvers. Too late. The kinetic projectiles tore through their weakened shields, punching through their hulls with devastating effect. In the space of 20 minutes, the entire Ketveran advance force had been neutralized. No human ships were lost, though several sustained damage. "Send the message," Mendoza ordered. A transmission was directed not to the Ketveran homeworld, but to the Vidian Council itself. The footage of the battle, along with a simple message: humanity defends its own. News of the victory spread rapidly through human space. For the first time since the attacks began, people dared to hope. But General Chen knew better. This was just the beginning. "They'll adapt," he told his staff. "The Ketveran have fought thousands of wars across millennia. They won't make the same mistake twice." "Neither will we," Okafor replied. "Our engineers are already developing new countermeasures based on what we learned." "And the Nephilim?" Chen asked. Admiral Katri's expression was grim. The diplomatic mission reached their border. "They've agreed to a meeting, but their terms are unusual." "Explain." "They want to meet a human who has killed a Ketveran in combat, not a commander or diplomat, a soldier who has taken a life directly." Chen frowned. "Their culture values combat prowess." "Apparently," Chatri confirmed. "And they want the meeting on their territory." Chen considered this. "Find me that soldier, and prepare them well. This could be our only chance to gain an ally powerful enough to make a difference." As the meeting concluded, Chen received a priority alert. The Ketveran had responded to the Alpha Centauri defeat not with retaliation, but with a request for parley. "They want to talk now?" he asked incredulously. "Yes, sir," confirmed his aide. "Their message states they wish to avoid unnecessary bloodshed between civilized species." Chen laughed bitterly. "Now we're civilized. Inform Ambassador Reyes. Let's hear what they have to say." The first round had gone to humanity. But the war was far from over. The reckoning. Ambassador Elena Reyes studied the holographic projection of the Ketveran emissary. Supreme Commander Vexthal was imposing even in digital form, his quartet of yellow eyes unblinking, armored exoskeleton gleaming with military decorations. "Your species has demonstrated unexpected capabilities," Vexthal stated. "The Emperor is impressed by your resourcefulness. We're glad the deaths of our colonists finally caught your attention," Elena replied coldly. The translator paused, likely struggling with her sarcasm. When Vexthal replied, his mandibles clicked in what intelligence analysts believed was amusement. "Your colonies encroached upon territories we have surveyed for future expansion. It was a necessary correction." "Those worlds were unclaimed under Council law," Elena countered. "Council law is a recent development in galactic history," Vexthal dismissed. "The Ketveran Empire has older claims. Nevertheless, your response was interesting. We offer terms." Elena raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening. Withdraw from all territories beyond your Sol system. Surrender your new weapons technology for inspection. Accept Ketveran oversight of your future development. In exchange, your homeworld will remain unmolested." Elena didn't bother hiding her contempt. "And if we refuse, then the Empire will deploy its full military might. What you faced was merely a scouting force. Our main fleet carries weapons that can render planets uninhabitable in minutes." Elena leaned forward. "Let me be clear, Commander. Humanity will not surrender a single colony. We will not submit to oversight, and we will defend ourselves by any means necessary." "You choose extinction," Vexthal stated, not as a threat, but as what he believed was a simple fact. "No," Elena replied calmly. "You did, when you attacked us without provocation." The transmission ended. Elena turned to her staff. How long until their main fleet arrives? Intelligence suggests 2 months, her aide replied. They're gathering forces from across their empire. Elena nodded. Then we have 2 months to prepare a surprise. On the remote world designated K9, Sergeant Maya Ortiz waited at the designated meeting point. The landscape was alien, azure vegetation under a purple sky, with 3 moons visible even in daylight. The air had been deemed breathable but smelled of cinnamon and copper. She wasn't a diplomat or officer, just a Marine who'd been in the right place at the wrong time during the Alpha Centauri battle. When boarding the disabled Ketveran vessel, she'd encountered a surviving warrior and ended the fight with her combat knife when her rifle jammed. Now that encounter had earned her the strangest assignment of her career: meet with the mysterious Nephilim and somehow convince them to aid humanity. They're here, announced her escort, a nervous-looking diplomatic officer. The Nephilim ship descended from the clouds, silent despite its massive size. Unlike the sleek designs of the Council races or the aggressive profiles of Ketveran vessels, this craft seemed to defy conventional geometry, its surfaces shifting subtly as if the metal itself was alive. When the Nephilim emerged, Ortiz couldn't help but stare. They were vaguely humanoid, but tall, nearly 3 meters, with skin that rippled with colors like oil on water. Their eyes were multifaceted, similar to insects, but their faces were almost human, creating an unsettling effect. Warrior, the foremost Nephilim addressed her directly, its voice melodic yet alien. You have killed the Ketveran. Yes, Ortiz replied simply. In defense of my people. The Nephilim approached her, moving with uncanny grace. Show us your hands. Confused but compliant, Ortiz removed her gloves and held out her hands. The Nephilim touched them gently, their fingers cool and dry. These hands have ended life, the Nephilim stated, yet they tremble not with fear or regret. I do what's necessary to protect my people, Ortiz replied. The Nephilim stepped back, conferring among themselves in a language her translator couldn't decipher. Finally, the leader turned back to her. For millennia, the Ketveran have expanded unchecked. The Council fears them. Other species submit. You, the youngest of spacefaring races, stand against them. Why? Ortiz considered her words carefully. This wasn't her realm of expertise, but she knew the truth was her best option. Because humans don't accept bullies, she said finally. Throughout our history, we've learned that if you don't stand against aggression, it only grows worse. We may die fighting, but we will fight. The Nephilim was silent for a long moment. The Ketveran attacked our colonies 5,000 years ago. We fought to a stalemate and withdrew to our current territories. No other species has successfully resisted them since. Will you help us? Ortiz asked directly. We will not fight your war, the Nephilim stated. Ortiz's heart sank, but then it continued. However, we will provide technological assistance, specific defenses against their most devastating weapons, and we will observe. If you prove worthy, more aid may follow. As the meeting concluded, Ortiz couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just passed some kind of test. The Nephilim had given them tools, not salvation. The fight remained theirs. General Chen reviewed the data from the Nephilim meeting with mixed emotions. The technology they'd provided was extraordinary. Methods to counter the planet-killing weapons the Ketveran had threatened to deploy. But it was defensive only. We're still outgunned, he told his staff. But at least Earth and our core colonies have a shield now. The new Icarus missiles are nearly ready, Colonel Okafor reported. Based on Ketveran wreckage from Alpha Centauri, we've developed countermeasures for their adaptive shields. And we've made progress with their communication networks, added Dr. Wong. We can now intercept and decrypt approximately 40% of their tactical transmissions. Chen nodded. It's time to take the fight to them. Operation Hornet's Nest. The plan was audacious, perhaps suicidal. Rather than waiting for the Ketveran main fleet to reach human space, a strike force would infiltrate their staging area and deploy autonomous mines throughout the region. When their fleet assembled, they would find themselves surrounded by weapons specifically designed to target their vulnerabilities. One more thing, Chen added. The Council has called an emergency session. They're concerned about our methods of warfare. Of course they are, Admiral Katri snorted. We're winning. Ambassador Reyes will handle the political side, Chen assured them. We focus on survival. In the Vidian Council chamber, Elena Reyes stood once more before the assembled representatives. This time, the atmosphere was different. Where before there had been dismissal, now there was wariness. The Council expresses grave concern over humanity's military innovations, Arkshan Tolmec began. The weapons you deployed against the Ketveran violate several technological development treaties. Treaties we were never invited to sign, Elena pointed out, and which you implied did not apply to us when you refused to intervene. Nevertheless, continued Councillor Zivnar, your methods are deemed destabilizing to the galactic order. More destabilizing than the extinction of our species, Elena asked calmly. The Council has reconsidered the Ketveran incursion. Arkshan Tolmec stated, we are prepared to mediate a settlement that would preserve your core worlds in exchange for certain limitations on human expansion and military development. Elena's laugh echoed through the chamber. Now you want to help. After telling us to fend for ourselves, after the Ketveran threatened to sterilize Earth. The situation has evolved, Councillor Drex insisted. Indeed it has, Elena agreed. Humanity has evolved it. And we've learned something important. The Council doesn't protect the weak. It preserves the status quo. You're not peacekeepers. You're caretakers of a system that benefits the established powers. Ambassador, your tone borders on insubordination, warned Zivnar. My tone reflects my government's position, Elena replied. Humanity rejects Council mediation. We will defend ourselves by any means necessary. And when this conflict ends, the galaxy will need to adjust to a new reality. As she turned to leave, Councillor Drex called after her. The Council could declare humans a threat to galactic stability. There would be consequences. Elena paused at the doorway. There already are consequences, Councillor, just not the ones you expected. Operation Hornet's Nest exceeded all expectations. When the Ketveran main fleet assembled for their invasion of human space, they found their formation riddled with stealthed human weapons. The resulting battle was chaotic, with Ketveran ships firing on each other amid the confusion of human electronic warfare. But the Ketveran were ancient warriors. They adapted quickly, regrouping despite heavy losses. Their counterattack struck at humanity's weakest point, the outer colonies that hadn't yet received Nephilim defensive technology. The colony of New Terra burned. Millions died before evacuation ships could arrive. The message was clear. The Ketveran would not be defeated easily. What the Ketveran hadn't counted on was the response from across the galaxy. Species that had suffered under their expansion for millennia watched in amazement as humanity bloodied the Empire's nose. Secret communications reached Earth, offers of intelligence, resources, even warriors willing to fight alongside humans against their ancient oppressors. The galaxy was changing. A new alliance was forming in the shadows, with humanity at its center. Supreme Commander Vex Thal requested another parley. This time, General Chen insisted on being present with Ambassador Reyes. Your resistance is admirable but futile, Vex Thal began. The Empire has endured for 30,000 years. We have weathered greater storms than humanity. Yet here you are, talking instead of fighting, Chen observed. Vex Thal's mandibles clicked. We offer revised terms. Humanity may retain its current colonies. No further expansion for 100 years. Military restrictions apply only to planet-killing technologies. Elena and Chen exchanged glances. The Ketveran were compromising, unheard of in their diplomatic history, and in exchange. Elena asked, You will cease providing assistance to rebellious elements within Ketveran territories, Vex Thal stated. Yes, we know about your new allies. The Empire will not tolerate internal dissent. Those rebellious elements reached out to us, not the other way around. Chen pointed out. Perhaps your empire isn't as beloved as you believe. Final terms. Vexed, all snapped. Accept or face annihilation. Elena stepped forward. We have a counter-proposal. The Ketveran will withdraw from all contested systems. You will recognize the sovereignty of all species currently under your control who wish independence. In exchange, we will not share our new technologies with those who remain in your empire. Absurd. Vex fall rage. You would dismantle an empire that has stood for millennia. No, Elena replied calmly. You did that yourselves when you attacked a species too stubborn to submit and too creative to be defeated. We're simply holding the door open for those you've oppressed. The transmission cut off abruptly. Elena turned to Chen. That went well. They'll hit us with everything now, Chen warned. We're counting on it, Elena replied. Operation Avalanche is ready. Chen nodded grimly. The Nephilim confirmed their observers are in position. The other resistance groups are standing by. If the Ketveran commit their reserves to this attack, their subject worlds will rise, Elena finished, and the Council will have to choose a side or become irrelevant. The final battle for human space became known as the Reckoning. The Ketveran deployed their full remaining might against Earth's defenses, but humanity was no longer fighting alone. Ships of unknown design appeared alongside the human fleet, representatives from a dozen species that had suffered under Ketveran rule, now armed with human innovations and burning with the desire for freedom. And beyond the battle, throughout Ketveran space, coordinated rebellions erupted on hundreds of worlds. The Empire, having committed its forces to crushing humanity, found itself crumbling from within. The Vidian Council, confronted with the collapse of the old order, finally acted, not against humanity, but as mediators in the creation of a new galactic compact, one where power was more evenly distributed, where innovation was valued over tradition, and where the right to self-determination was paramount. When the fighting ended, humanity found itself in a position none could have imagined. Not conquerors, but liberators. Not the strongest species technologically, but perhaps the most influential philosophically.